On this visit to the Film Lounge, an astronaut confronts an awful truth inside a wormhole. A documentary uncovers vibrant art in small towns. A performance artist paints a surreal picture on film. A Pulitzer-nominated critic explains how to watch movies. A filmmaker observes art in action at a ballet studio. And a musician uses film to capture the joy of performance. So settle in for the joy of cinema here at the Film Lounge.
Funding for the Film Lounge has been provided by Produce Iowa, State Office of Media Production, building a statewide network of support for the film community in Iowa. More information on how you can connect is available at produceiowa.com. And the Iowa Arts Council, powering Iowa to build and sustain culturally vibrant communities by cultivating creativity, learning, and participation in the arts. Learn more at iowaculture.gov.
So I bought my first camera in 2007 for my birthday, and I just started making like really bad movies in my grandma's backyard. And then from there I just kept training, and especially in high school, once I could actually take like video classes that, you know, gave me structure to actually have to put out something every few weeks, that really helped me like learn a lot and really grow as a filmmaker. And ever since then I've just been slowly growing in Cedar Falls, just trying to reach out with new actors and other people that also really love filmmaking, and just keep going from there. So the Spaceman was inspired by movies like 2001 or Interstellar, and that's just because these movies kind of ask the question of what exactly exists out there. And so I kind of also wanted to give my opinion, I guess my own creativity, creative approach to what exactly is out there. And so that's something I really wanted to explore in the Spaceman. This was the most visual effects heavy project I've ever done, so a lot of pre-production was done to make sure a lot of the things I wanted to do could actually be pulled off, and especially, you know, making a spaceship, because that's kind of essential if you're trying to send someone to space. And so we spent a lot of time building sets, trying out green screen work and whatnot. Most things didn't work, and so I had to adjust a lot, but we still managed to figure out everything, and we pretty much shot most of the movie in my basement, and hopefully it doesn't look like it was all shot in my basement, but that's the reality of it. The thing about film that really captivates me and makes me want to make it is just the fact that you can take people on this journey through something that's like completely built in your mind, like a world that you yourself have completely built. And I think the opportunity to express myself like that and let others, you know, form their opinions, good or bad, I think is something like incredible that anybody I feel like should want to have, you know, just being able to tell your story, you know, and especially watching it with an audience, just kind of feeling in the room or hearing how people react. Like, it's incredible just that something that I just thought up one day, wrote down, actually went out and made, can actually like have some sort of impression on someone is just incredible. And that's something that for me, I can only do with film.
Engines are up and burning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. We have liftoff.
This is ground control. Wormhole is approaching soon. Are you starting to miss Earth yet?
I don't know.
No family or anything?
No, it's...
Corey, you copy? Are you okay?
Doing great!
We're going to figure this out.
Your first expedition into the wormhole was a major success. A job well done, wouldn't you say?
Of course, of course.
Tragic for the boy, obviously.
Well, we needed to send a monkey before we could send a man.
I hope you know that I'm proud of what you're doing. But if I can get you to stay, I just want you to know that you could do so much more for your people here. You could go into business, politics, or whatever. You're too smart to be thrown into a wormhole as a lab rat for them.
Why does everyone always tell me what somebody like me should be doing? I'm choosing to go, I want to leave.
What if they're just going to laugh at you?
You can't hear sound in space, Lucille, so that shouldn't matter.
Lucille, can't you see me? It's not real. I can't breathe, help me. Stay here, Corey! Don't go! Don't leave!
The Art of Living is a short documentary that follows 3 small-town Iowa artists, and they use art as a platform in their small towns to make their small-town community better. This documentary is aimed towards the social media generation. There's a stigma that kids need to get out of their small towns and go to the bigger cities to be successful. We started with Cody Weber, a photographer out of Keokuk, Iowa. He used a photography project called Forgotten Iowa, where he was taking pictures of abandoned buildings in all 947 cities in Iowa. We found Rose Franson, who's an amazing oil painter. And she has an amazing project called Portrait of Makokata, where she painted portraits of everyone in Makokata. In that experience of painting those people, she was able to learn everyone's stories and really connect with the people of her small town. Gene is a metal worker in Dubuque. He makes sculptures, and his goal is to use sculpture as a way to build community as well. What appealed to us about each artist was that they were doing something different, and they were doing it in their small town, and they were able to make an impact on their small town with their medium. People don't really realize the importance of art and what it does to a community, how it can bring people together, how it can strengthen everything about a small town even. The role of an artist in a community is vital, I think. It's their job to tell the story of their community and to use it as a way to communicate to the rest of the world of their community in their small town.
It is a great life. It is a great life to be a maker. It is a great life to be an artist. What is it to live, truly? How do I serve? That made me move to New York. And then I moved back in order to paint my community.
I feel like they are representative of the community itself, because they might be worn down a little bit, but they persevere. And why shouldn't we be proud of those things? I just find these buildings fascinating, and I'm so interested in history, and walking into history is just something that I feel like people in these small towns take for granted, and no one really looks into things. People look at things, but it's really hard for people to look into things. And maybe that's what a lot of it represents.
You know, art is, in my estimation, the visible soul of a community. You know, it can be judged, liked by some, not liked by others, but art and culture is the vibration that people are looking for. You know what's really special about my hometown of Dubuque is probably the hills, the ridges, the valleys, the river. The environment is really, really appealing to me. I think it's one of the most beautiful cities in Iowa. My medium is metal. And it's got the power of the message that I want to get across. You know, after working in a medium for so long, you start to interpret the world through your medium. Oh, I'd like to videotape that. Oh, I'd like to paint that. I'd like to sculpt this. Interpreting the world through metal, I'm aware. I'm seeing the beauty. I want to be able to capture somehow that beauty, and I'm inspired to do so through my metal work. I don't have an industrial background, but you know, I guess I really must love it because I spend a lot of time down here by myself, and really I think a lot of artists experience that. It sometimes gets very lonely, but when you get in the pocket and you're driving forth with the inspiration, time eviscerates.
I lived in New Orleans, I lived in Michigan, I lived in Chicago. All of it was a wash. Like, I could have not done any of that and it wouldn't have made a difference in my mind. Because to me, the only stuff that matters is the stuff that you share with other people. I actually started Forgotten Iowa in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So I went up there and I didn't know anybody, and at the time I was really focused on my photography. And I thought that my blind spot was like structural stuff, architectural photos, stuff like that. I was primarily a portrait photographer. And I thought, well, if I have this big blind spot, I should explore it. And then I moved back to Iowa. I decided to go to this town called Croton, Iowa, which is only about 45 minutes away, but I'd never heard of it in my life. And when I was there, I was taking photos of the town and the buildings, trying to work on that blind spot. And I had this thought that, like, if I didn't have this specific purpose to come here, I never would have done it. Like, I would have never came to this town. I just got this thought that, like, I wonder how many other towns are in Lee County. So I did all the ones in Lee County. And then I'm like, okay, well, that was fun. Why don't I go up a county? And then I started Forgotten Iowa.
I like to make work in series, and I've done a lot of different series. Portrait Maquoketa is probably the most known. It was shown at the Smithsonian and at the Figge. Parts of it were shown in Chicago and Cedar Rapids, and we showed it in Maquoketa. That was one form of exploring community and the artist. How do I take all this stuff that I've been learning about being an artist in the world who's hoping to be a human being in the world? How do I take that and bring it to my community? How do you give them that quality of that experience when you're sitting across from your model and you both know you've met another person, right? And in a way you've performed this service of witnessing another person's life? That's when I realized I could actually paint my neighbors. That was how I got my big, huge idea to paint Maquoketans. It was like putting this idea of who and what can an artist give to their community, putting that up on the easel and letting the artist understand and explore it. The artist in me understand and explore it. I often say Maquoketa is a really great place to work, especially if you're a maker or a creator. It's off the grid enough for you to discover yourself, but close enough to the big cities for you to go in and get a little taste of what you might need for a spark here or a spark there, and then come home and have a lot of space in a really beautiful place to make something. Because you have access to this wider world through your computer, through your phone, through your thing, you can actually make a small town amazing. But we lose too many of our young people to the cities. Maybe everybody should go for a little bit, but don't forget to come back and see if you can actually make your real dreams for yourself come true. Younger people's energy in a small town is absolutely invaluable. Absolutely invaluable. But what I fear for them, the young people of the social media generation, is not having that space, that physical space like I had, right? Sometimes you need to learn who you are in a quiet way. And I feel like without that social media, that world, that computer world, that phone world will actually suck the life out of a lot of us. So how do you find that balance, right? It's the new generation question.
You know, we humans have a essential need to create, whether it's to create a family or a home or a shelter. Being able to make something it's accessible to anybody. And I think it's something that really we as humans need to explore more deeply, is what can we create other than just our wealth and our big fat carbon footprint. We all have it, you know, regardless if it's good, bad, New York or Dubuque, Iowa. Everybody needs to just go out and practice their skills and express with the world. You know, I see the younger generations with this longing to get out and experience the bigger world. I say go, get out there, get a job, but bring your influences back here, bring your talents back here, invest in your hometown, because there's always that yearning.
A lot of people that are here that are my age feel like they failed because they didn't get out. I'm not in Keokuk because I failed elsewhere. Even though in some ways I probably did fail elsewhere, it doesn't matter. I'm here because this is where I feel like I'm supposed to be. Why does it matter where I am? And why does it mean that I failed or anybody else failed because they're here? It doesn't.
You're supposed to move to the city to make your work, right? You're supposed to do stuff in big, important places before you're considered, what, a real artist? That's been a cultural thing for a long, long time, right? You gotta leave the rubes and go to the city. And this moving back from that is like we have to dispel the myth that it's a failure. I knew that being with the community was actually a real piece of art, actually. You never forget that kind of being touched by a community experience like Porch Mkokota, you know. But it was interesting because that really required my humanity too. And that was actually quite beautiful. Not that all of these other ones don't, but it was so obvious when you're working with another person and being in front of another person that you need to be a feeling human being.
Each of us has this opportunity to share and to build. Equally, we have an opportunity to tear down and to denigrate. I think it's incumbent upon each of us to get out there and live in a community to make it as rich and as vibrant and as interconnected as we can. You know, this is it. This is our turf. This is our land. This is our life. It's going on and it's going by. People say I spend time on art. I say I spend my life on art. I spend my life building community. It's something I've always done. I build community. Being a consumer isn't going to solve the problems that we have in the world. Neither is building a piece of art, mind you. But when people come around and talk about that art, they're not talking about hurting each other. They're talking about what is in common with them in the universal language of art. You don't have to build some marvelous whatever or paint something that's going to be a masterpiece. A community member that wants to make a more beautiful community can help somebody out. They can say hello to somebody. They can be kind to somebody. This is what we do. It's an art of living. It's an artful life. It's a presentation. It's how you keep your yard. It's so many aspects of everyday life that's accessible to every member of a community. And come and share and do, and let's make this place great and beautiful together.
I hope her story inspires a few of the best and brightest among you to see what you might do in your own hometowns. New York, Chicago, and LA don't really need you that much, but you'd be quite welcome in a place like Maquoketa.
I'm a performance artist, and that means that most of the time I think about art in terms of live events that people can watch. And as with a lot of visual arts, you think about the live action in some sort of meaningful or symbolic way. Proving Ground was created in the Salt Flats in Utah. And this is obviously a place that not a lot of people would have access to. And the reason that I decided it worked best as a video, and especially as a video projection, was that you could transport people to that location in a way that they wouldn't have experienced firsthand. The scale of the projection can be very large, the sound can be amplified, and especially when you put the video on a loop, so that it plays again and again and again, the audience can experience the image in a sort of meditative way. It really transforms what happens. As an artist, I've been really fascinated with the way we use clothing to communicate parts of our identity, and especially the way that clothing signifies certain kinds of power relationships. And Proving Ground also deals with that to a certain degree, because the character or the persona that I'm taking on is wearing a football uniform. And for many people, that also signifies a certain kind of power. But in the image that you see, it's presented in a kind of surreal way, a sort of dreamlike way. When I think about the meaning of the work, I like that it is open-ended and obviously symbolic, but not symbolically obvious. So that when a viewer looks at this, it's almost like looking at a dream or thinking about a dream that you've had. And I may have a very specific meaning, but I like that it's very open-ended and that you can pick it apart however you like as well.
critic is a mediator between the filmmaker and the audience to help put the film in proper context and to add historical context and some interpretive context. One misconception is that we tell you what to see, and I don't think any of us really think of our job that way. I think our job is to sort of be helpful in the process of audiences discovering films that they may not otherwise know about, and also helpful in preparing people to have an aesthetic experience. We have a 4-star system at the Washington Post, and for me, any star or permutation of a star is positive. It means that there's something to value in that film. So if I give your movie 2 stars, you're doing good. You know, I mean, that's not a bad review. I know everyone wants 4. Not everything can be a 4 or even a 3, but a 2-star movie really denotes, for me, in my opinion, you know, a film that's pretty good. And it may not be setting the world on fire, but it did what it set out to do. A dear friend gave me some really great advice before I wrote my first reviews, and he said just every review should really answer 3 questions. What was the artist trying to achieve? Did they achieve it? And was it worth doing? And honestly, I think that's really what I've been trying to do for the last 25 years of writing film criticism, which is to kind of meet the movie halfway and to judge the movie on its own merits rather than any kind of preconceptions or biases that I am bringing to it. This is a sort of singular category of filmmaking, and it's not necessarily, even though there are narrative shorts, they may not have that kind of traditional 3-act arc that we're used to, or take their time, you know, that we're used to with a feature film. So I guess those 3 questions, you know, what's the artist trying to achieve and did they achieve it, or even more germane in that instance. The shortest films have the longest impact often, and let yourself experience that too. So just don't watch them while you're standing in the kitchen eating something out of the fridge, you know. Really give it some time to sink in and kind of get under your skin the way you would a poem. Growing up here has made me a little bit more attuned to how the Midwest and central areas of the country are portrayed. Maybe I might be a little bit more sensitive to patronizing or, you know, simplistic portrayals of the Midwest. It's so gratifying when people can really get it right, you know, get the region right and get the rhythms right and the weather right and all of that. I think it was Paul Schrader recently said, it's never been easier to make a movie in terms of the means of production. It's in the hands of everybody now, this technology, and I think with generations growing up just saturated in visual culture, they're probably pretty savvy about visual storytelling in a way that maybe I would not have been, you know. People still like to go to movies, and you know, I think there's kind of a misunderstanding that young people don't go, but they do. You know, that's the best way to get out of the house still. It's still relatively affordable and safe. That just seems to be a constant. You know, I don't think that impulse is going to be going away. So I really do think it's about understanding audiences, and that gets into issues of representation. You know, I think that's one of the strands of what we're talking about when we say we need to see more filmmakers of color. We need to see female filmmakers because, you know, there are lots of audiences out there that feel underserved or have felt underserved for decades. If filmmakers and film distributors and professionals are smarter about their audiences and serving those audiences, they are still viable.
I applied for the Artist in Residence program at Ballet Des Moines and was accepted. So included in this residency was 6 weeks of all access granted as an artist to the dancers in their rehearsal space to make basically whatever kind of art that I wanted to. Me being a filmmaker, I embedded myself with the company and just shot footage of them, you know, going through the paces of their rehearsal process from inception to the completion of the finished works. The second movement is the one that we'll see in the program, and that is making ready for the day. They go through a class, they do their stretching, they do their movements, and by the end of the class, they're dancing and they're doing quite complicated choreographed movements. You know, for the most part, I was able to just, you know, kind of move my way around the room as a fly on the wall and shoot everything that they were doing. These dancers were moving constantly, so it was really a task for me to be able to learn how they moved, where they were going to go, because they could be here one moment and then gone the next, and I really had to be able to anticipate what they were going to do. But that also included some really more honest moments of them, you know, eating their lunches and tending to their injuries, and things that you don't necessarily think of when you think of a ballet dancer, because, you know, they like to, their art form is so presentational, but they were really open with me and allowed me into their world. The best thing that I learned from this process is that during the rehearsal process and during the warm-ups, they're creating art. And that for me was why I chose these subjects, the making ready of the art, because it's like a rough draft or a sketch of the eventual thing that you present to the public, but there's all kinds of art happening in these rehearsal halls beforehand.
As Above, So Below is a video I created particularly for the NPR Tiny Desk concert competition. So I wanted to capture, like many artists, some high-quality footage of a live performance so I could share that with the world. The recital hall at Voxman Music Building at the University of Iowa has a very lush red wall. It's just a beautiful space to be in, and so that came to mind for setting, and James Edel captured the sound. He works with the university, did a just fantastic job. And Joshua Delanois, another participant in Film Lounge this session, did the videography for it. And so we set up a live performance in which Joshua was able to move in between the performers and really capture the joy that is performing with my band. Collaboration between filmmakers and musicians provides an opportunity for the face of a musician to be accessible to their fans in a way that when you perform live, there's an obvious distance factor. You can only get so close to the stage. You have everyone around you, and by putting it to video, it's now intimately accessible how the musician looks, the other part of the experience, not just the sonic part, but visually the story they're telling, and how that deepens the impact of the art that is being consumed. To me, as I was writing it, and I think of songwriting as a lot like fishing. You know, we might not really be sure what we have on the end of our line as we start a song, and you kind of discover that as you're fleshing it out, as you're finishing out the song. And it became apparent to me that I was writing a song that is loosely inspired by the concept of the hero's journey. It's a song of redemption, and I can remember having a lot of emotion as I began writing it, and once I discovered that that's the kind of song I was writing, I was able to step back and have a less personal approach with the song in an attempt to finish the arc, to have created this again, an example of the hero's journey of a cycle of redemption and return.
Set up a mountain, the highest mountain in my mind, and I set up the mountain, my inner demons doubting, and finish the climb. Cursing me by the mouthful, knowing what I'd find. Oh, they cried and they shouted in rhythm by the thousand, symphony of hounds howling. And I only got up, putting weight on other people's shoulders. I gave my body to the ground. I carved out a canyon, the most loneliest of loneliness in my mind. And I went down in the canyon. Every one of my companions left behind, saying my reckless abandon was just too damn demanding to be benign. So the side took credit for something that someone else said. Oh, so suddenly I felt so naked in front of a crowd. So I stood up, I put up, and I shut my mouth. It's helped me remember my time spent in the desert. A trip I'd begun under the sobering sun, and it tried me out down to my bones. When I was out in the ocean, that same first left me broken. My ship rocked by all that motion. My intent was so insignificant against the whole of the greater notion. As above, so below.
Funding for the Film Lounge has been provided by Produce Iowa, State Office of Media Production, building a statewide network of support for the film community in Iowa. More information on how you can connect is available at produceiowa.com. And the Iowa Arts Council, powering Iowa to build and sustain culturally vibrant communities by cultivating creativity, learning, and participation in the arts. Learn more at iowaculture.gov.